Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equity Story. We had an absolutely fantastic, before I start, this is obviously just general share advice and not personal advice. And we had a really interesting, I thought it was a fascinating Ask the Analyst session last night. And we were very, very lucky to have Claude Walker, who's, I think, very famous for his Motley Fool calls. Made some great calls with them when he was in charge of the Hidden Gems report. And he's not with Motley Fool anymore. And he's just a wonderful analyst and filled in absolutely beautifully for Pete last night. So obviously this is just general share advice and not personal. I'll say that before I get going. But what I would like to do is just recommend you to go onto the Equity Story website and have a look at last night, because there were two stocks, and what I asked Claude to do was just give two stocks that you're interested in and that you think could be winners over the next sort of 2 or 3 years. And he came up with two stories, and I'm not going to sort of go through them now. He explained it absolutely beautifully on Ask the Analyst last night. So like I said, go and watch the talk. And the two stories is, one was CGS, which our beloved Wolfie has spoken about a few times, and it's actually one that he likes and sees a lot of potential in the story. And the other one is SEQ, which is a little bit under the radar. Both these stocks, I think, are around the 70, 80 million market cap. And this stock is certainly held up very well in a lot of mayhem. And I think the management are having a share back as buying shares back online as well. So two really fascinating stories, and I really encourage you to listen to Mr. Claude Walker and hear his reasoning why he likes these stories. And certainly, I think after you've heard what he said, you'd want to get them on the watch list. You know what? Pretty miserable. And again, I mean, sort of the Dow was slightly down. Well, let's have a look at these. The Dow was slightly down. The Nasdaq held up a little bit. And our market, XGO, just sort of a little miserable. Now, we need to hold above that 7,000. I think if we go below there, whether it's this week or next week, there's a good chance that then we're going to go to lower levels. Are we going to go lower? And this is the question. And I was asked that question a few times last night, and I didn't really get around to, I think, answering the question properly. And yes, I think we could have a little bit of bounce. But are these markets going lower into June? And certainly, I think the answer is yes. And this is exactly what the charts are saying. The broken trend. If you look at the sort of the exhaustion patterns, big red candles, they tend to follow on. The market is actually looking weak, and but don't be scared about this. Hopefully, we've been telling you. I mean, if you go on Einstein's, every single week we've been telling you these markets are coming off. So hopefully you've got some cash, and now's not the time to deploy it. The time now is cash is king, and be patient. And hopefully there'll be some wonderful buying opportunities in the next that will arise in the next few months. I think at the moment it's really the time to sort of be just really careful and generally speaking, preserve your money. I was asked last night a few questions like LYC. For me, it's a sell. It's broken trend. These sort of resource stocks can be very, very volatile. You take no prisoners. Do you wait to the end of the week? I think normally you do. Can I see that recovering back by the end of the week? Well, we've got 2 days to go. I doubt it. I think I'd be just getting out. PLS, the same. I mean, we know these stories are on a fantastic trading on incredible multiples anyway. For me, that's a sell. I would be getting out. Do not take any prisoners. And I think it's really hard to sell stocks, but you got to do it, right? You have to do it. You've got to preserve your money. You can't be that person that if this market goes down another 40, 50% thinking, why didn't I do that? You just can't. You just got to sell it. You just got to sell, sell, sell. And you're going to get some good opportunities coming up. Had a few questions about obviously JLG. Little not easy this, and again, story that we like, story with fantastic strong revenue growth and revenue growth that I mean basically the company are really finding it hard to cope with the demand. It's just expensive. you know, you look at the chart, it really needs to hold above 740 by the end of the week. You can see where it's trading if you want closer to the close today, but I'm leaning on, even although the week's not over, just calling it a sell now. Maybe if it gets back over 740 at the end of the week, you can get back in. But I think, again, you just got to protect your money. It's still trading at 74 times, which is expensive. I think it was interesting what Claude was saying last night about it. It just could be one of those stocks that's going to be really affected by the inflation and all the prices which are going up. And so maybe the market's just decided, you know, you just run too hard, you're too expensive, bit of profit taking, and that could continue. And like I said, it's still trading 74 times, which is you know, I think you'd want to see it closer to maybe 50 or 40. And like I said, you know, very, very important. Don't be scared selling stocks. Sometimes you just got to get out of them, and you've got to move on. Yesterday evening, LIC came up with a pretty strong announcement reaffirming sort of guidance, more or less. But are we going to buy it? Nah, it's just below trend. It's looking too weak. Which is this market, again, just a time of being patient. At the moment, the trend lines are coming down. And, you know, with this one, we might be halfway, maybe around that $14. But at the moment, we just got to stay away from these sort of stories. There were a few broker upgrades, and there's one in particular I want to have two that I was quite interested in, actually. And I'll go through these with you. The first one was Macquarie, and Macquarie's actually put a $44 target price on Aristocrat. Now, certainly for us equity story, we're not going to go there. It's below the water, it's below the trend. But it's just interesting that Macquarie basically what they're saying here, the broker knows Aristocrat's businesses are gaining ground, and with about 1.3 billion net cash in the kitty, merger and acquisitions is on the cards. Macquarie estimates the company will have a compound annual growth rate of 10% in the 3 years to 2024. It's a very, very bullish. So again, you know, let's have a look at this. This is one of our monthly plays, and yeah, I think it's just got to do a little bit better. I think we've got to get, at least if you're going to get back into this long term, we want to see a little bit better price action, at least by the end of the month, be back above that 33.59. But again, get it on your watch list, because, you know, there's got to be a time with this sell-off where we take advantage of some of these stocks which are getting heavily sold off. And certainly that was a very, very interesting broker upgrade from Macquarie. The other one, which I think is well worth having a look at, is CRN. So Credit Suisse. Now this stock is trending. It's trending up, and coal, you've seen over the last sort of 3 or 4 days, big sell-off with a lot of the commodity plays. I think you've seen even oil come off a little bit overnight. But coal is generally speaking held up. And it was interesting to see Credit Suisse, and I'll read this to you. It says here, with the company announcing a US 11.9 cents per share special dividend, which will be paid in late June, Credit Suisse has noted this equates to a 7% yield for the quarter, which is obviously excellent, and forecasts a 26 to 36% annual yield through to 2024, with further upside potential. So that's very, very interesting. So obviously they're forecasting very, very strong dividend returns, and they put a target price of 340. So if you like the coal space, I think this is certainly worth having a look at. Let's have a look at how it looks on the daily chart. And again, you know what? It hasn't broken that daily trend. I think this might be one well worth having a look at the moment. And if you were going to buy it, you could buy it on the daily, but I think I just buy it on the weekly. I think I'd put my stop loss just under $2 and see where it goes. I think that this could be a pretty interesting play. It's held up very, very well. And I think the dividend over the next, obviously 2 or 3 years, if Credit Suisse are correct, I think looks very, 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 very healthy. CSL, we spoke about this the other day. And again, Morgan Stanley had an overweight with a target price around 310. For me, I don't think I'd be going there. Yes, I understand the world's getting back together. We're going to have a lot more blood testing, but I think the price actually just has to be a little bit better for us to get back in. But again, there's not much. I think you're seeing. If I get get today's price action, so you can see a little bit easier. I'll bring this over. It's very good, this market index, so you can see a little bit of the sectors which are moving and the sectors which are not moving. And you can see here the health and staples doing okay today, and these are defensive plays. And when things start getting sold down, a little bit of money tends to go into these sort of stories. But again, you can see the techs, the materials, the energy, the financials getting sold off really, really strongly. So it doesn't look good. And the reason I wouldn't take any prisoners, we've got tonight in America, we've got the CPI numbers coming out. These inflation numbers, I think they're going to be bad again, and I think it's going to just scare the market again. And unfortunately, possibly we're going to have a weaker Dow and a weaker Nasdaq overnight, and things are just going to get tougher and tougher for us as this week goes on. Saying that, I mean, listen, I'm not going to put CRN on as official trend at the moment. I think a lot of you are in there anyway. If you are in it with those sort of numbers, I'd be holding it. If you want to have a look at it, sure enough, go ahead. If you do want to buy it, have a stop loss somewhere just under $2. And that being said, obviously, thank you for listening to Equity Story. And I will have Claude on again this week. Hopefully, I'll get him to do a trade watch video with me. I really enjoyed the session we had last night. And thank you for listening to Equity Story, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.